Hello! Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. Good morning and good afternoon. That's what I forgot to say. I was like, I feel like I forgot to say something there. It is Good Tuesday News Day, the day on Before Coffee, where we cover all the good news. Well, at least according to us, it's good news. You might have other opinions, but we are talking about Georgians, of course, Trump news, and also, time travel. That's always good news to hear. Let's go ahead and read.
Not exactly time travel.
Yeah, I know,
I'm not sure we got that. Okay.
Let's go ahead and read our headlines here. Today on Before Coffee. Scientists hail exciting material that can store greenhouse gases.
And good news, Supreme Court denies Trump aid from getting out of prison.
Thousands of Georgians stage March for Europe against controversial foreign influence bill.
And more good news on Good Tuesday News Day. It's gold is coming out of a volcano in Antarctica. And can we slow down time?
Noisy, performative, and unapologetically non-European, Nigeria welcomes a museum like no other.
The stories and more, which is National Military Brats Day. The last day of April already, April 30th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
Okay, well, we're looking to slow down time to stop time from progressing. I've always felt like I've lost a year or a year and a half of time because of the COVID pandemic. Totally feel like, I lost all that time. I think that somebody told a joke. I forget who told the joke, but they were like, man, if only we had enough time, I could do that thing. And then the COVID pandemic proved, nope. Even if you had all the time in the world, you still wouldn't do that thing. You're
gonna learn guitar. You're gonna learn a foreign language. Right.
Anyways, we'll talk about that story later. For now, let's talk about how we've had exciting new material discovered that can store greenhouse gas. I'm not sure what it's gonna do with it after it stores it, but sulfur hexafluoride is a more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide and can last thousands of years in the atmosphere. This is from Nick Forbes on Irish Examiner. Scientists have hailed the exciting discovery of a type of porous material that can store carbon dioxide. The research published in the Journal of Nature Synthesis saw a team led by scientists at the Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh create hollow, cage-like molecules with high storage capacities for greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and sulfur hexafluoride. Sulfur hexafluoride is a more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide and can last thousands of years in the atmosphere. Dr. Mark Little, who jointly led the research, said, "This is an exciting," and I can't do a Scottish accent, Scotland. "This is an exciting discovery because we can now need new porous materials to help solve society's biggest challenges. For example, direct air capture of carbon dioxide is increasingly important because even when we stop emitting carbon dioxide, there's still going to be a huge need to capture previous emissions that are already in the environment. Planting trees is a very effective way to absorb carbon, but it's very slow. So we need human intervention, like human-made molecules, to capture greenhouse gases efficiently from environment more quickly." The researchers used computer simulations to accurately predict how molecules would assemble themselves in the new porous material, a method which Dr. Little said could be further enhanced in future through the use of artificial intelligence or AI. I mean, I can agree with that statement that if humans created the climate crisis, we need to make human solutions, right? We can't just keep on looking on the trees to do it, or I don't know, algae. We have to do it because we created an abundance of greenhouse emissions that were not naturally there before. So he said combining computational studies like ours with new AI technologies could create an unprecedented supply of new materials to solve the most pressing societal challenges, and this study is an important step in this direction. If you're able to use AI tools to predict those quicker and more accurately, then we can really accelerate the rate at which we can discover these new types of porous materials without actually having to make any of them in lab beforehand. Yeah, it would suck to make a bunch of them and then none of them work. What a waste. Dr. Little described the study as an important step to developing other materials and added that molecules with complex structures could also be used to remove toxic compounds known as volatile organic compounds from the air and could play an important role in medical science. He said, "We see this study as an important step towards unlocking such applications in the future." As well as scientists at Harrow Watt, the study involved researchers from the University of Liverpool, Imperial College London, the University of Southampton, East China University of Science and Technology. The project was funded by Engineering and Physical Science Research Council and the Leverhulme Trust. It was also supported by the research facility Diamond Light Source, the University of Southampton, the European Union's Horizon 22 research program, and the Royal Society. We've actually talked about the European Union's Horizon 2020 research program before, when a lot of schools in the UK were trying to still be connected to that program without losing funding, because guess what? They left the EU, so they don't get to just be attached to stuff that are EU sponsored. But it's good to hear that, what was it called again? I already forgot the name of it. Hero Watt, which is in Edinburgh, still has its support and was able to discover, along with other universities, this new porous material that we can maybe use to scrub the atmosphere, basically. Just put them on the plane wings and just suck it all up. I have no idea how it works, but that's my image in my head, is just flying through the air, sucking up all the bad.
I think it absorbs it before it gets up high in the sky, I would think.
Oh, really? Huh.
Well, why would you have to wait for it to drift up into the clouds, right?
Yeah.
Get carbon while it's still on the ground. That's what trees do.
Oh, that's my article, and I'm excited to see what other cool materials we will discover.
I mean, it just invents synthetic, easy to reproduce tree leaves that just trap carbon. It's drifting up, like a canopy. Like an artificial forest canopy. Well, it's realistic. That's how forests trap carbon in their canopy, because it never gets above the tree line. Anyway. Well, it's the truth. I mean, how much of it ever gets out of a canopy?
I'm sure we've done millions of articles about how all the scientists are solving our issues while we sit here and also get angry at multi-millionaire companies for saying, "Oh, it's not my problem."
Well, it's because people I don't think understand the science. They think, well, we can take care of the carbon problem in the world by just taking care of the rainforest in South America. I was like, no. The rainforest in South America only absorbs the carbon in South America. It doesn't do anything for the rest of the world. Nothing, not a thing.
I mean, have we ever shown that really cool graphic of, like, it shows the carbon concentrations throughout the world, and it's really, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's really interesting because during the summer, right?
There was a map.
We go carbon negative just from the Amazon forest. It sucks up during the summer. It sucks up all the carbon.
I mean, the summer in the Amazon forest doesn't really have a summer. It's kind of all year round type thing, right? I guess.
I'm just saying during the winter,
near the equator.
This particular graphic I'm talking about, during the winter.
Well, the winter people burn more fossil fuels.
You can see the actual recording from a satellite of the carbon emissions, and in the winter it's Europe, most of the Western world, basically. Big carbon red color, and then during the summer in Amazon, it's the opposite effect. It's a big green color or blue. I think it's a bluish green color, sucking up all the carbon. So, Amazon's really important.
We did a story last month or a month before about the northeastern United States is actually cooling because of the reforestation. Because they're active reforestation in the Northeast, and it's not as lumbery as they used to be back in the, say, 19th century. Anyway, we can't stop time, and we maybe can slow it. But here's a guy who probably wants time to speed up because he's going to prison. This is from Don Jacobson of the United Press International. The Supreme Court on Monday denied a bid of Peter Navarro, a former advisor to defendant J. Trump, to stay his 4-month prison sentence while he appeals his contempt of Congress conviction. All this guy had to do is show up to Congress and testify, and he would have stayed out of prison. But he's going to prison for his buddy Trump. He's counting on Trump to pardon him. That's what he's doing, running out the clock. And then the Supreme Court's letting Trump run out the clock. You think, oh boy, just a few more months, we can just stall this. Maybe we can get Trump in again, and we'll never have to worry about it ever again. And we just go with whatever we feel like then. Because this Constitution won't matter. But for now, the Supreme Court has decided that Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch has decided that Peter Navarro, you got to go to prison. Navarro's second attempt for help from the Supreme Court, submitted to Trump-appointed Justice Neil Gorsuch and referred to the full panel, was denied without comment in a list of orders published Monday. The latest order came 6 weeks after the High Court similarly rejected Navarro's emergency appeal to remain free during appeal of his conviction. Navarro, 74, was convicted in September of 2 counts of contempt of Congress for refusing to testify and for refusing to provide documents to the committee that investigated January 6, 2021 riot by Trump supporters in the U.S. Capitol. He previously had requested a stay of sentence from 2 lower courts. Sneezing. Whoa. Sorry. Man,
bless you.
Came out of nowhere. And it's warm in here. It's got to be allergies.
Yeah, pollen hour. That's for sure.
And not even outside. Navarro was convicted of 72 counts of contempt of Congress, refusing to testify. I did that already. Did I not? He had previously requested a stay of sentence from 2 lower courts, each of which rejected his arguments that he was exempt from committee subpoena because Trump had asserted executive privilege in the case. Last month, U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta, who presided over Navarro's trial, and the 3-judge panel of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals rejected his request, writing that they found no evidence that Trump had exercised any such claims. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts agreed in an opinion issued on March 19th, writing, I see no basis to disagree with the determination that Navarro forfeited those arguments in the release proceeding, which is distinct from his pending appeal on merits. If you understood that, congratulations. Following that decision, Navarro's attorneys resubmitted the request to Gorsuch under rules allowing parties whose emergency applications are denied by a single justice to try again with another justice. Navarro, the first former White House official to be imprisoned after being found guilty of contempt of Congress, continues to maintain his actions were justified. His actions in defying the congressional probe and the January 6th Capitol assault were justified under his broad interpretation of executive privilege. I walked proudly in there to do my time, Navarro said, as a total fascist robot. I will get strength from this. Donald Trump is the 24th presidential nominee. Okay, good for you, cheerleader. Okay, that's your story. Peter Navarro's going to prison. When are these real criminals going to go? We got to find out. But it's good news that the Supreme Court at least pretends to uphold the Constitution, or at least some kind of principles, at least for now. We'll see about later, because they worry the hell out of me.
Got to keep that reputation of trying to do something, your job.
Yeah, the most corrupt Supreme Court in history, bar none. There's no second place. The most corrupt Supreme Court in history gets to decide shit, and we can't do nothing about it. Because they're there for life, folks. Anyway, back to you. There's your story.
Well, speaking of maybe corrupt governments or people passing laws that not everyone agrees with, I was supposed to cover this story yesterday, but I totally forgot to cover it. Instead, we just talked about cybersecurity and changing your password for like 30 minutes. But today I'll cover it, which is about the Georgians staging a march for Europe. That's right. Over the weekend, some 20,000 Georgians staged a march for Europe, which was actually on Sunday, the 28th of April. calling on the government to scrap a controversial foreign influence bill, which the EU has warned would undermine Tbilisi's European aspirations. So this is by Newswires on France 24. There have been mass anti-government protests since mid-April when the ruling Georgian Dream Party reintroduced plans to pass a law critics say resembles Russian legislation used to silence dissent. Now, if anybody was watching the show back on Thursday last week, we did our first 13 Things on Thursday segment, which we covered all of the countries/territories that Russia can claim that they can invade because, hey, it was originally part of the Russian Federation, so we can just attack them. And Georgia is taking the wrong step towards that inevitability, it seems. Waves of similar street protests during which police used tear gas and water cannons against demonstrators, which they always do. It's just normal now to chemically warfare your own people because they're protesting something you passed, forced the party to drop a similar measure in 2023. Police have again clashed with protesters during the latest rallies. On Sunday evening, before staging what organizers called a March for Europe, at least 20,000 people turned out at Tbilisi's Central Republic Square, according to an AFP estimate. The kilometer-long procession, which featured a huge EU flag at its head, stretched out along Tbilisi's main thoroughfare towards Parliament. "I'm here to protect Georgia's European future," said 19-year-old Lasha Chikedze. "No to Russia, no to Russian law, yes to Europe." The rally was organized by around 100 Georgian rights groups and opposition parties, which have until now kept a low profile at the youth-dominated daily protests. The authorities, which have reintroduced the Russian bill, are going beyond the constitutional framework and changing the country's orientation, betraying the unwavering will of the people, the organizers said in a statement. At one point during the largely peaceful rally, demonstrators attempted to break through a police cordon outside the Parliament building to hoist the EU flag there, an AFP journalist witnessed. Police used pepper spray without warning. They just instantly like, "No! European flag! Ah!" Actually, they more like do this, right? They're like, I never actually saw people get sprayed by pepper spray until recently. Well, I say recently, probably 3 years ago, but my whole life I went without seeing it. I had no idea it sprayed that far. Like, it's a huge distance. Crazy. The Interior Ministry said in a statement that the protest turned violent. Yeah, after probably people got sprayed with pepper spray, I expect. Ah! Pepper in my eyes! And the demonstrators physically and verbally confronted law enforcement. Past midnight, hundreds of riot police were deployed in the area. I love when police people are like, "I was in danger." You have a gun, dude. You're not in danger. The further days of anti-government protests, Georgia's ruling party announced its own rally on Monday, which was yesterday, April 29th, when a parliamentary committee is set to hold a second reading of the bill. If adopted, the law would require any independent NGO and media organization received more than 20% of its funding from abroad to register as an organization pursuing the interest of a foreign power. Georgian President Salom Zurablishvili, who is a loggerhead with the ruling power, has said she will veto the law. But Georgian Dreams holds a commanding majority in the legislature, allowing it to pass laws and to vote down a presidential veto without needing to support any opposition MPs. So very similar to the US. If you get enough votes in the Senate, I think, even out a veto, you can just pass it again. You can actually pass the law without any presidential approval. Georgia's bid for membership of the EU and NATO is enshrined in its constitution and, according to opinion polls, supported by more than 80% of the population. Georgia Dream insists it is staunchly pro-European and that the proposed law aims only to boost transparency of the foreign funding of NGOs. But critics accuse it of steering the former Soviet republic towards closer ties with Russia. This law, as well as the government, are incompatible with Georgia's historic choice to be an EU member, the leader of the opposition Akahali party, Nika Givarmia, told AFP at the protest. EU Chief Charles Michel has said the bill is not consistent with Georgia's bid for EU membership. It will bring Georgia further away from the EU and not closer, he said. In December, the EU granted Georgia official candidate status, but before membership talks can be formally launched, Tbilisi will have to reform its judicial and electoral systems, reduce political polarization, improve press freedom, and curtail the power of oligarchs, said Brussels. Once seen as a leading democratic transformation of ex-Soviet countries, Georgia has in recent years been criticized for perceived democratic backsliding. Of course, let's be fair here, a lot of European countries currently in the EU are also suffering from perceived democratic backsliding. So it's kind of going all around, guys. Polarization and popularization have been very, very strong, especially ever since the UK's vote for Brexit. That was probably the biggest indicator that polarization was taking over in a lot of European countries. And of course, we have the rise of far right. I can see where the government's coming from this. They might also want to know if certain NGOs are being funneling Russian money in, so as an influence of foreign power. But in the same way, right, they're probably getting a lot of support from the EU, so although also those countries are also going to have to file as, I'm helping Georgia, but now I'm a foreign power, you know, because I'm, I don't know, Denmark or something. I have been recently watching a YouTuber who was a Russian citizen. I think he probably still is technically a Russian citizen. But as soon as the plans of invading Ukraine were happening, he left the country, went to Georgia, lived in Georgia for 2 years. And unfortunately for him, he was never really truly accepted in Georgia culturally, even though he had wanted nothing to do with Russia, right? I hate Russia. But the country that I live in is just, I don't want to live there. So he ended up having to move to Portugal to get any sort of semblance of being allowed to be a person and not just a Russian citizen. So, but Georgia supposedly is a great country, very beautiful, but it does have that issue of being on a border with Russia. And there is a worry that it could become another Belarus, for example. Just dictatorship, and you just need one corrupt president to go, you know what, I'd love to be president forever. Hey Putin, can you help me out? And then it's over, you know? Mm-hmm. That's all you need. So that's your news from Georgia. On to gold and time travel. I know it's not time travel.
All right then. There's gold in them thar hills in Antarctica. If your country is starting to threaten, totalitarianism, you can maybe leave your country. And there's always Antarctica because there's gold coming out of the land. It's just shooting into the sky. That's right.
Like oil.
If you can afford it, get a raft and start rowing. There's not a lot of flights going to Antarctica, so. Try zero flights going in.
I think there's no airport there, so maybe a
there's
seaplane
places to land.
Yeah.
There's lots of flat places on a glacier to land, but yeah, there's no land.
No friction, I think, is a problem.
There's land, but it's buried under ice, most of it. Yeah. Okay, so Activo, this is from UPI.com. Monica Danielle, AccuWeather.com. Sounds like a dream, but it's true. In Antarctica, gold rains from the sky. Tucked among the glaciers, fiery Mount Erebus is the southernmost active volcano on Earth, providing a bit of heat amid the frozen landscape. The frozen continent features 138 volcanoes, according to a 2017 study, with around 9 of them reported as active. With a summit with around 9, 8, 9, 11. Okay. With a summit elevation of 12,448 feet, Mount Erebus is the most well-known. Erebus is one of the 3 volcanoes that form Ross Island, and it's said that it was erupting when it was discovered in 1841 during the voyage of Captain James Clark Ross, who carried out important magnetic surveys in the Arctic and Antarctic and discovered the Ross Sea in the Victorian land region of Antarctica. HMS Erebus was the name of one of those ships. Scientists still observe the volcano through the Mount Erebus Volcano Observatory and conduct field campaigns to look for extreme life forms. The largest Antarctic settlement in McMurdo Station, operated by the United States, is located about 25 south of Mount Erebus and is within sight of the volcano. Okay, about the gold. Satellite images of the volcano reveal a lava lake that's been bubbling since at least 1972, according to IFL Science. The volcano regularly pumps out plumes of gas and steam and has been known to eject boulders of partially molten rock known as volcanic bombs. While volcanic bombs are exciting, it's the bursts of gas spraying tiny crystals of metallic gold that surprise scientists, who estimate the volcano spews around 80 grams of gold a day. That's worth about $6,000. The gold has been found hundreds of miles away from Mount Erebus. Antarctic researchers have detected traces of the gold dust in ambient air up to 620 miles away from the volcano. So it'll probably isn't worth the journey. Even if you're collecting $6,000 a day of basically volcanic gold, I just wonder how you would diffuse it and collect it and put it in some kind of container. So that's your story on gold. And here's another story. This is from theguardian.com. Is it possible to slow down time? Let's find out. This is from Nicola Davis. If every day appears to go in a blur, try seeking out new and interesting experience, researchers have suggested, after finding memorial images appear to dilate time. I have a suggestion. If you want time to drag, go to the DMV. Go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, or what do they call it in your state? Time will drag.
Go get any ID. And time will pass by. Slow and
don't take your phone. Don't take your phone with you, because that'll make it go faster. Leave it in the car. You'll be sitting there going. Anyway, it'll be horrible, but time will slow down. Researchers have previously found louder experiences seem to last longer. Louder experiences seem to last longer. So go to a rock concert and go deaf, I guess. Well, focusing on the clock also makes time dilate or drag. Yeah, if you look at the clock. I'm not sure, man. Now researchers have discovered the more memorable an image, the more likely a person is to think that they've been looking at for longer than they actually have. Such images were also easier for the participants to recall the next day. Professor Martin Weiner, a co-author of the study, who is based at George Mason University in the U.S., said the findings could help develop and improve, here we go again, artificial intelligence that interacts with humans. Why is that our goal? I have no idea why anybody thinks that's a goal of ours.
Awkward and lonely, and they're like, only an AI can ever be my friend.
They offer, we're going to get AI to fool you into thinking time is slowing. That's basically what they're trying to think about doing. Well, okay. Well, they're doing this with the eye towards, if artificial intelligence can make people fool people into thinking that time's going slower. Insert good benefit here. I don't know. I don't know the benefit of that. I really don't. As an individual benefit, perhaps, but I don't see how AI doing it is a benefit to anybody. Anyway, just my thought. Well, they also offer opportunities to tweak our perceptions. Given the research has previously shown non-invasive brain stimulation can be used to lengthen our perceived interval. One idea could be, if we can lengthen the perceived interval while showing an image to a person, that image may be remembered better 24 hours later. Writing in the journal Nature Human Behavior, Weiner and colleagues described how they showed scenes of 6 different sizes and 6 different levels of clutter to participants for between 30 and 900 milliseconds, asked them to indicate that they thought the duration was long or short. The results from the 2 groups, totaling around 100 people, revealed participants were likely to think they had been looking at a small, highly cluttered screen, such as a crammed pantry, for a shorter duration than that was the case, whereas the reverse occurred when people viewed larger scenes with little clutter, such as the interior of an aircraft hangar. The team also carried out experiments involving 69 participants that found images known from previous work to be more memorable were more likely to be judged as having been shown for longer than was the case. Crucially, the effects seemed to go both ways. We also found that the longer the perceived subjective duration of the image, the more likely you were to remember it the next day, said Wiener. When the team carried out an analysis using deep learning models of a visual system, they discovered more memorable images were processed faster. What's more, the processing speed for an image was correlated to how long participants thought they'd been looking at it. Images may be more memorable because they are processed faster and more efficiently in the visual system that drives the perception of time. The team suggests that time dilation might serve a purpose, enabling us to gather information about the world around us. When we see things that are more important or relevant, like things that are more memorable, we dilate our sense of time in order to get more information. However, he noted that the work does not rule out the possibility that the brain also has an internal clock to keep track of time, which would explain how different aspects of experience can be perceived in synchronicity. Wiener also said, he has a lot to say, the memory findings had broader implications. What suggests is that we want time to feel like things are taking longer and we need to seek out things that are themselves more memorable. And by that, I mean things that are novel and interesting and new to us. This is why a vacation can seem to last much longer than, say, the equivalent amount of time during your daily routines. Is that true? I don't know if my vacation lasts longer because I sleep more. And I know for a fact that time flies when I'm sleeping. Oh boy, it's like poof, right?
It's kind of scary
when you're not aware of it. Yeah, when you're not aware of it, time doesn't exist. It does not exist in any way. It's the thing we invented, and the phenomenon are actually the actual phenomenon they're observing is our brain's operating system working to its peak efficiency. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Actually, I found that really interesting because I'm a vivid dreamer, actually, so I always know what time it is. I actually have a very accurate internal clock, and I'll wake up when my alarm goes off, which is really annoying because I don't want to do that. I want to sleep forever, but my brain will be like, you should get up now. And I'm like, no, I want to keep dreaming. Like this really cool dream where I was like flying on a dragon and I was a witch and I was doing magic spells, and then my brain was like, this is just a dream, you should wake up. And I'm like, what the hell, man? I was having a fun time pretending I lived in a different reality, and you had to reel me
reality
back in.
You're actually probably in what they call REM dreaming for maybe 20 seconds, and it probably seemed like 5 hours, right? Because you weren't awake. You were immersed in it, and you were getting all the details or whatever. And then as soon as you wake up, it's gone, and like 99% of it is never coming back.
Well, actually, not for me. No, I can still remember the dream. The thing is, I can't tell you it. Right, that's the hard part. It's not not remembering it. It's hard to put it into words what happened. I guess. So
the less retrievable the memories are, the faster they're absorbed in your brain and just disposed of, I guess. That part of your brain, your subconscious, stores a lot of stuff that you're never even aware of. And if you have an active subconscious, time probably flies because you're always lost in your own thoughts, and you just look up and, wow, the whole day's gone.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
Yep,
I'm just
that's how I feel
all
too.
The time.
People that read books, right? You're reading a book, you're lost in that story, day just passes you on by. And I don't know I don't know if the day seems shorter or longer to the person that does that. I used to read books a lot, and I think it just makes the day go faster. I
think it also feels like you've done more that day, even though you didn't do anything but sit down and read a book. But your brain feels like, oh yeah, I want this adventure, with Frodo to Mount Mordor, to Mordor or something.
Yeah. I know it's a radical new thought, but perception is reality.
Yep.
There's your story.
Well, I don't know if you've heard of these people who are trying to switch realities. I can't remember what they actually call it, but there's this idea if your brain is just
Deadheads, they drop acid, switch realities.
Oh, is that what they're... Oh, okay, well, it's a more recent phenomenon for like Gen Z or something, but there's this idea that if your brain makes reality, maybe if you just start thinking of different reality, you'll just switch to that reality. You'll just, like the Matrix or something, right? You'll just go over there. So there's people who are really invested in this idea of just like, I'm going to just spend all day meditating on trying to switch to a reality where climate change doesn't exist or something, I'm a
Or
rich
take away one of your
billionaire.
senses.
Yeah.
Take away one of your senses. Take away one of your senses and see how aware you actually are.
Yeah.
Anyway. Lots of little tricks you can play in your mind. All right? Anyway.
The meditative quality of not being able to
Blindfold
see.
yourself for a day.
Yeah.
Get rid of your hearing, whatever you can do. See if you can, your awareness of your other perceptions slows down time. It just might.
Yep.
The awareness of your other perceptions, your awareness of your other senses. Anyway,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Back to you again
Get
for
all
the fourth time. Back
philosophical
in.
about changing reality. Okay.
Right.
For my culture segment, we're going to talk about the noisy and unapologetically non-European museum that is open in Nigeria. This is Said Kamali Dangan on The Guardian. Opposite the Nigerian National Museum in central Lagos, a swimming pool and a memorial hall once stood as an integral part of the city, a popular congregation point that evoked a sense of pride. This year, decades after the compound fell into disrepair, a new pool is opening to the public alongside a state-of-the-art museum dedicated to Yoruba culture. The John Randall Center for Yoruba Culture and History, which describes itself as a fitting symbol of the municipality of identities in the metropolis, is in the Onikan area, the cultural heart of Lagos Island. Unlike the National Museum, built in the late 1950s on a Western model by the English archaeologist Kenneth Murray, I hope that came from a good place and not just some weird colonist mindset. The center is unapologetically Yoruba, according to Swen Udowole, the site's lead architect. If you go to a Western museum, the African section is often in a basement. It's dark, but this museum pops with color and sound to highlight the vibrancy and dynamism of the Yoruba culture, Udowole says. Yoruba's words are bigger than English counterparts on signs and displays. Will Ria, the Nigerian-born curator and academic who has helped steer the project, adds, "It is a very different to a European museum. You walk in a soundscape and it's noisy, it's performative, and you have to move your body the whole time." Just the whole time. I can't stop. My body is taking over. The external walls of the Yoruba Center, which has 1,000 square meters of exhibition space, are concrete and finished in earth-colored pigments reminiscent of mud features in old Yoruba settlements. The gold lattice is a reference to the craftsmanship of the Yoruba people. Inside, visitors are greeted by audiovisual displays that animates Yoruba myths of the origin of the world, used in the form of calabash, a gourd that has significance in Yoruba culture and beliefs. A separate room exhibits various deities and manifestations of saints, including Shango, the god of thunder, and Oshun, the goddess of femininity and fertility. There is specific space for storytelling to reflect the Yoruba oral tradition, as well as sections on customs and practices. Man, I hate when people say the myth of blah blah blah. I wish if they're gonna say everything's a myth, call Christianity and Islam and Judaism, all of those are myth too, okay? You don't know if it's true or not. You weren't there when the world was created. Former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari unveiled the center, commissioned by Lagos State Government in January 2023, but it will open its doors to the public this autumn. Oh man, I wish I could go to Nigeria just to see this museum. You know, one regret I've always had is I wanted to visit the museum of, I guess it was called African American Museum or something. I can't remember what it was. But it opened in the Smithsonian, right? The Smithsonian Museum of African Americans, whatever it was called. It opened up, I think, like 2016 or something. I wanted to go with my friend Nate, who is half black. And then we just never went. And now I can't go at all because I don't live there. But like, why didn't I ever go? What's wrong with me? I hate making plans and never following through to them. And this is why, because I regret not doing it. The original swimming pool on the site was built by John Randall, a Sierra Leone-born doctor from a returnee slave family. Saw how young Lagosians were drowning in the surrounding lagoon and decided to build a swimming pool when the colonial rulers refused to do so. The pool that Randall built in the 1920s is what was then known as George V Park. It became a huge attraction. Lagosians were excluded from the nearby members-only club run by the British. A memorial hall was added to the site in the 1950s, but as Lagos expanded in the subsequent decades, the buildings fell into disrepair and closed down in the late 1970s. Besides the museum, the center also had 3 restaurant spaces serving contemporary Yoruba cuisine, a library, a temporary exhibition gallery, seminar rooms, and a gift shop. Hell yeah! Where you can buy cool Yoruba things, probably. I have no idea. Odewole, who works for the Lagos-based firm SA, says that many Lagosians of his parents' generation learned to swim in the original Randall Pool and went to the theater in the Memorial Hall. One of the things that we wanted to do here was to interrogate museology as a construct and ask the question about why the Western model doesn't work with African context. Because they're all stuck-up whiteys, that's why. I can say that, I'm half white. And how can we create a space that isn't a museum in a traditional sense, but is more like a theater of living memory, he says. Honestly, British people are like the worst. The reason they get the worst reputation is because they're all about society and acting proper and all that stuff. And it's just like, come on, guys, have some fun in your lives. Just suck the color out of everything. Talks are underway to receive 12 items on long-term loans from the British Museum, including the Lander stool, one of the first Yoruba pieces taken from Nigeria by the British, which has been the subject of reparation calls. Among them, items donated to the museum is a costume worn by the notable Nigerian musician Fela Kuti, regarded as a king of Afrobeat. Ria, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Leeds, says, Yoruba culture is without doubt one of the greatest artistic, musical, and oral literal cultures of the world. It is stunning in its creativity and art history. Even today, we find that Yoruba culture is influencing the world in all sorts of ways, with Fela Kuti taking it out of Oriki singing tradition into a fusion of West Coast American jazz. Notion, for example, salsa, that its origin, a Yoruba dance movement that was taken up in Brazil. Yeah, that makes sense. Brazil is one of the leading, well, the whole of South America and Caribbean is a leading multicultural, America likes to brag about being a soup, but it's really the South America and the Caribbean that are really soupy. Like, you can't even separate them. That's how souped up they are. In America, we still separate our pieces of soup. You can now find Yoruba cuisine in London and New York. There's a real sense that Yoruba culture needs more visibility. A team of academics and experts have contributed to the center's design and purpose, including the Nigerian-American scholar Roland Abudun, whose book Yoruba Art and Language is a key resource in the academic world. Ria says that Lagos has deep connections to Yoruba heritage. The whole Onikan area has become rather lost in expansion of the city of Lagos, so the new center is very much aimed at developing this area as a cultural quarter, he says. Yoruba people speak a similar language and have had a shared cultural identity and shared cosmology that goes back in time, he says. Interest in Yoruba heritage has peaked among young Nigerians over the past 10 years, and that's what the Randall Center absolutely plays into, according to Ria. The key thing about the center is refusal to talk about the idea of the traditional. When you talk about traditional African art, it's very Eurocentric views of African art. It's a historical notion. Rather, what we're doing is looking at the traditions of Yoruba culture. So, good job, Nigeria. Return to your roots, defeating that colonialistic history of them trying to kind of flatten everything and make it samey when, you know what, things aren't the same. Some things are really different and we should celebrate the differences, not try to blend it in with everything else that we know. So if you ever find yourself in Nigeria or you haven't planned your holiday this August, check out was it August or autumn? I think they just said autumn. Check out the new museum in Lagos, where you can learn about Yoruba culture, craftsmanship, and all sorts of music and oral histories, everything. Check that out. That's my story.
Sweet. Sweet. Knowledge is empowerment. I love saying things like that. Anyway, this day in history. We're at that point in the show. English physicist in 1897 on this day. So we're not really even going back in the midst of time. We're only going back to the 19th century. English Physicist J. Thomson announced that he had discovered the electron, which helped revolutionize the knowledge of atomic structure. He was later awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics. So electrons are 127 years old. Happy birthday to the electron.
Woo!
On this day in 1900, American railroad engineer Casey Jones, later made famous in song, died in a train wreck.
Oh, no.
He hit another train. Maybe I'll cover that story. I keep talking about Casey Jones. A lot of people know the story of Casey Jones, and maybe I'll look it up for tomorrow. Because it happened on April 30th, 1900. 1900, also on this day, William McKinley signed the Hawaiian Organic Act, which made Hawaii a territory of the United States. So Hawaii's belonged to the United States for 124 years. 1926, aviator.
Key word there, belongs, right? Because they are never treated as actual American people. And they don't want to be.
Oh, is that right?
A lot of Hawaiians want to return to being an island again.
Hey, man.
Not a state.
Okay. I don't feel like I'm treated like an American. So
I'm not saying what you do. I'm just saying other people, right? They go to Hawaii, they build the resorts, and they just kick people out of their houses. And it's like, I don't want to live in continental U.S. I want to live in Hawaii because I'm Hawaiian. And they don't have any houses because all the rich people buy all the land.
That's been going on forever in every country.
Yeah.
1926, aviator Bessie Coleman, the first American woman to obtain an international pilot's license through the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale, died after her plane crashed during a rehearsal for an aerial show. There you go. That's part of being one of the first pilots. You die while you're doing it. Yeah. Yep. That's how it goes, You do something that nobody's ever done before. Yeah. Landing's a little tricky.
There might be a reason they never did it before. Maybe.
Yeah,
just
the first pilot, I think the first pilots discovered taking off is the easy part. It's that landing that's going to get you. Yeah, you're going to land, because you are going to land, for sure. 1933 is the birthday of Willie Nelson. So happy birthday to Willie Nelson. You are 91 today. Holy crap, where does the time go?
I think he recently made his first public appearance in a long time, and he is...
No, he's always making public appearances. I don't know what's the deal.
No, maybe. Oh no, I was thinking of.
You must be thinking of somebody else. Yeah.
Like
Willie. He played at Farm Aid this last year. So.
Who's the actor who's in a lot of westerns, and he also directs a lot of films?
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood made a public appearance recently, and he's very small.
But it's not his birthday, so we're not talking about Clint Eastwood. Not Clint Eastwood's birthday, Willie Nelson's birthday. Clint Eastwood's kind of as a person, Clint Eastwood's kind of a dick, quite frankly. I mean,
Willie Nelson is great.
Yeah, Willie Nelson's awesome. Again, Willie Nelson, 91, smokes a lot of weed, 91. Just putting that out there. And martial arts. Don't forget that. He's very active in martial arts for his entire, basically, life. I believe he has a black belt, or a couple of black belts, or whatever the highest belt is.
It's black belt, yeah.
Don't fuck with Willie. 1939, the National Broadcasting Company made the first public television broadcast in the United States at the New York's World's Fair. 1945, here's the good news for today. The good news. On this day, German dictator Adolf Hitler and his wife Eva Braun committed suicide in a bunker in Berlin. They also killed their children, which was kind of cruel. I gave them, I think, cyanide or something.
That's kind of cool.
Cruel, I said.
Oh,
although who wants to grow up being the son of Hitler? You son of Hitler.
You don't want to do it, but it's not fair that they were.
But again, you can change it.
Their choice to be alive got taken away there just a little bit.
Infamous people's kids do live lives in anonymity occasionally. So, I mean, Hitler had a brother. He survived a good long time. 1975, the South Vietnamese capital of Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, fell to the North Vietnamese troops during the Vietnam War. So April 30th is one of those days where the walls are closing in. They were closing in on Hitler in 1945 and closing in on South Vietnamese, and barely 30 years later, 1975, So April 30th is Walls Closing In Day. Just call it that. 1989, Italian director, we're speaking of Clint Eastwood. There you go. Well, you brought up Clint Eastwood. Italian director Sergio Leone, who popularized the spaghetti western with his hugely successful Dollar trilogy, which included the masterpiece The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, with Clint Eastwood was in all three of them. Hang 'em High and Fistful of Dollars, I believe. There you go. There's your three.
Oh, me bringing up Clint Eastwood is still relevant. Look at that.
Exactly. Because the director who made a bunch of his movies died at the age of 60 on this day, 1989. He was only 60. Well, it doesn't say what he died of.
No, it was a different time back then. People are living past 80 these days.
60 though. 60 is still young. Even in 1989, 60 was young.
No, I agree with you, but I'm just saying it was probably more common back then than it is now. That's all.
I know. FDR died in his 60s, and everybody thought, oh, he was old and decrepit. He was only 60 something.
Yeah.
I know.
10 years after 50 is not old and decrepit, guys.
Well, he was decrepit because he had polio, but that's kind of an unfair term for somebody who gets polio. Anyway, more events in this day. Willem Alexander, this is local to you. Willem Alexander became King of the Netherlands in 2013 on this day after his mother, Queen Beatrix, abdicated. She had ascended to the throne 33 years earlier. What they do, I have no idea.
It's actually
I like
really
this picture
interesting
though.
Because last week was his birthday, so it was his birthday, and then she was like, "Happy birthday, son! You gotta be king. Bye." So.
Well, this is an interesting picture of him. Somebody's giving him the side eye, right? There's a picture of him, and they've included another guy in the picture, and the guy in the picture is giving him a side eye look. Like,
really, did they include him being a pilot? Because he actually famously was a pilot for.
No, it's just.
KLM.
It's just.
So.
No, it's just. These are just blurbs. They're not going to give his biography, even though they pretend they're biographies. A featured event in 1789, George Washington was inaugurated as the first president of the United States on this day in 1789, the Federal Hall in New York City, addressing his constituency on the proceedings of a new and free government. And Edward Manet, French painter, was born on this day, and he died on this day, sorry. He was born on January 23rd, 1832 in Paris, and he died April 30th, 1883 at the age of 51. Again, didn't live that long, in Paris. Hopefully he didn't spend his entire life in Paris. Born in Paris, died in Paris. Now, hopefully. Well, he's a painter. Does he have to go anywhere? He's in Paris. Why does he got to go anywhere?
I guess.
Yeah, he's got all he needs there. This is before the Eiffel Tower, I think, was finished, though. Anyway, other famous birthdays today. Carl Friedrich Gauss, the German mathematician, born in 1777. Karl the 16th, Gustav, King of Sweden, was born in 1946. Lars von Trier, Danish filmmaker, born in 1956. Stephen Harper, Prime Minister of Canada, born in 1959. And Isaiah Thomas, American basketball player, born in 1961, turning the ripe old age of 63. Way too old to play basketball in the NBA. Happy birthday. And what day is it today besides? Well, let's see. It's a bunch of things today. National Raisin Day, and it's National Oatmeal Cookie Day. So if you like raisins in your oatmeal cookies, well, that's more than a coincidence, I think. It's National Hairstylist Appreciation Day. Right on. Hairstylist Appreciation, or as we used to call them, barbers.
Well, I think there's a difference. Hairstylists are for women and barbers are for men because they also shave beards. Don't ask me why, but that's the difference.
I think it's semantics. It all it is.
Yeah.
Hair cutter. It's National Hair Cutter Day. How's that? National Adopt a Shelter Pet Day. And National Sarcoidosis Day, which appears to be a inflammation of something. I have to look that up.
Of something.
Well, it's got ISIS at the end. Yes, osis. Osis means inflammation. Anything with osis at the end. National sarcoidosis. Osis means inflammation. So our ISIS or itis. I don't know what it means. Let's see what it means. Oh, it means I got a pop-up ad. That's what it means. National Sarcoidosis Day annually raises awareness about non-contagious immune system disease, while most commonly found in lungs. Sarcoidosis is that inflammatory disease. I said inflammation that can affect any part of the body, inside or out. So, when it attacks the skin, it looks like scaly rash and red bumps. Often people don't have it and blame it on allergies, several reactions, something that came on the contact. So it's a pretty common thing. It's got a lot of information on it. Wow. Well, it's cardiosis. Sarcoidosis. Got to say it right. Anyway, that's what it is. National Sarcoidosis. If you have little bumps, which I think everybody does, especially if you go outside this time of the year, freaking insects everywhere.
Yeah.
So you don't know what the hell just bit you. Microscopic little thing, especially down around your feet, right? Especially if your shoes off. Woof, forget it. Someone's gonna bite you. It's National Adopt a Shelter Pet Day. Not always do that. National Bubble Tea Day. You love bubble tea? Go out and knock yourself out.
I love bubble tea, dude. It's the best thing. It's one of the best things that ever came out of Asia, along with rice and pasta.
Rice. I think rice is basically just grew out of the ground, you know.
You're probably right. But I don't know why, but Asia's famous for rice. So, and they also invented pasta, even though Italy takes all the credit from, for pasta.
Right. Well, there's a famous story. Marco Polo discovered pasta by traveling to the Far East.
Yeah.
So, and he invented that famous game after him, based on that. I have no idea. Anyway, it's National Pre-Parathon Day. Pre-parathon? Wow. And it's National Military Brats Day. So if you're one of them people, you know who you are. You're in a town for 3 years and you got to leave. So you don't make any close friends and you sit there in the back and everybody thinks you're emo. But what you are is you're just sad and you don't know what to do about your life because every time you make a friend, you got to leave and go, hey, I'm going to Singapore. And they're like, oh, I wish I was you. You're going to Singapore. And you're like, you don't want to be me. I can't make friends. Anyway,
well, that's what the great thing about the internet is, though, because you can, stay friends with people on the internet.
Yeah, if you say so. It still sucks being a military brat. I guarantee it sucks. So.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before on a previous episode of Before Coffee. I was like, yeah, always moving. I think, it was the Military Kids Appreciation Day, and it's like, yeah. Those guys need to be appreciated because they are in a shitty situation where they're also not allowed to make any friends or.
Even the cute name they give you, they still call you a brat.
Sir, and salute them when they go to bed, or something.
Probably not. I don't think most. Maybe I don't know. I'm not in those families.
Me either. I've only known like a couple, and yeah, I was really sad when they moved away to Germany or something.
Right. Okay, BRAT is actually an acronym. I had to look it up. Do you know what it means?
What?
In theory, this is a British came up with this. Military brats are British Regiment Attached Traveller. BRAT. Oh. There you go. Those are your stories, all you military brats out there. Now what you know why you're called a brat. It's not derogatory. It was a military acronym. Those are your stories for today, April 30th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
Okay, this has been Allison here, who's not a military but is a brat. And
I learned something today.
And we will see you tomorrow for our Wacky and Weird Wednesday. All the weird stuff that's been going on this week, we're going to cover it. I think I already have a couple stories, like something about whales. There's always something about an animal happening. Every single week, an animal is doing something weird or a weird thing is happening to animals. I hope you have a good rest of your Tuesday, if it just started for you or if you're in the middle of it. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, turn on that notification bell, because we're trying to get to 300 subscribers. I know it's a low number, but you gotta start somewhere. And here is your mic drop moment.
Just crossed my mind.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.